Hi, my name is Bhagyashree Ghosh, an alumni from IIM Indore, securing 99 percentile in CAT and your VRC expert. I am starting this new playlist where I will be targeting the high level RCs of the series RC 99. In my channel, you can already get the other videos of RC 99, the other RCs that I am starting from RC number 1. In this playlist, I am going to start passage 67, that is actually the first RC of the high level RC series. So the first RC is here. If you want to give it a read by yourself, you can pause the screen and play it back. Let me scroll and show you the full RC first, and then we will read the RC together. Try to understand the main points. We will try to skim and scan from the topic and know the only those information that is useful to us. We will try to see which is not useful. See what is not useful. If something is getting repeated, that's not useful. So the main points we will get, and based on that we will solve the 3 question that follows. So you can see the 3 question, and the question is really up to date as per the examination, which will weaken the argument, then which have which action would violate a principle of the classical model of free speech, well, and all this. And then of course we have another question, fortress model is built on what foundation, this and that. So these are the 3 questions that we will see after reading the passage. So what are we waiting for? Let's start the passage. Let's get started. So let me scroll back to the passage here and let's start the reading. So just we'll take a highlighter. Okay, let's try to see what are the important points. The passage starts with a paradox, okay. And what is that paradox? Paradox means the opposite of it, which looks good, is actually not good. It's actually the opposite of it. So some argument is there, its opposite is ironically, I mean, if we think that this is the opposite, that's ironically opposite of that. Well, so basically paradox, there is a paradox being discussed, and that if and that is a negative thing. It admonishes something, that tolerance of intolerant leads to intolerance. Exactly what it means, when we will read the context we will know. It says universal declaration, human rights, constitution, law, Western Euro democracy adhere to principle of freedom of speech. So it's talking about freedom of speech, that Western democracies, they follow freedom of speech, and all heed the warning of this conundrum and do not afford legal protection to extremist speech. So we have the another important thing, that there is freedom. So there are 2 things, freedom of speech is there in democratic countries, Western countries, and they do not afford to protect legally the extremist speech. So legally these democracies do not support extremist speech. Now there is a contrast, that while in the Western Europe, European democracies, speech of not democratic extremists has been successfully outlawed. So in Western Europe it is outlawed. So okay, fine, the same thing that is there in the paragraph, idea getting repeated. And what is there in United States? There is this First Amendment right to freedom of speech has been interpreted to encompass radical oration, traditional justification, American originate in the belief that speech is entitled to greater tolerance. So in America there is a lot of tolerance than other kind of activity. So speech, there is a lot of tolerance in terms of speech in America. And in Western Europe they have banned, they have outlawed the extremist speech. So there is a belief that positive value very broad range of speech. Okay, so second paragraph talks about where in European democracy extremist speech is completely outlawed. In American democracy there is a greater definition of freedom of speech, and under that there is a greater tolerance for a wide range of speech. So the passage is not directly saying, but the passage actually is trying to say you this, that they try to tolerate extremist speech, although legally they do not favor extremist speech. I am not, yeah, I am saying this, but this is what the passage is hinting. So let's read further. What is it? What comes further? So the third paragraph is talking about a classical model. Yeah. So there is a classical model of freedom of speech, What happens is, and in the process of democratic self government, the free speech principle only protect the political speech. So in the classical model, political speeches are protected. Theories, opinions related to any issue on the citizen must vote. So okay, and proponent to this view insists even extremist view cannot be concealed from voting citizens. So it's trying to say that extremist views are there, we cannot stop extremist view. So a citizen can vote on the basis of even extremist view. So this is classical model. So this is one form of extremist speech that exists. So there are two models. Second model is in this paragraph where they are talking about the fortress model. Well, under classical speech, further information is that classical speech, classical model of speech has self-interest, self-governing society, rational, equal, participating, etc. Fortress model values freedom of speech as a necessary precondition to discovery and preservation of truth, but this is primarily negative. So there are two models of freedom of speech. Okay, so from this perspective, government majority of people pose a danger of intolerance. So from the negative perspective, there can be a danger of intolerance. So in spite of the high probability that belief will eventually prove to be false, so this belief might prove to be false, but still it is argued that people will feel certain about them, even though the belief will come false, but still people are believing that. That is also the paradox as per this. So thus now see the guys, when thus is written, it means author is trying to give his own opinion based on what was written in the above passage. So focus here. Fortress models prescription for combating the tendency to censor non-conforming view is to overprotect speech by providing a broad buffer zone that encompasses extreme speech. So because its protection substantially diminish the probability that inherently valuable speech will be suppressed. So under fortress model tries to tries to protect or overprotect the extreme speech, and this may probably in a substantial way lead to suppression of speech, valuable speech. So fortress model may suppress valuable speech because it focuses or it protects the extremist speech also. That's it. Okay, so based on this we have 3 questions. Hopefully you got the idea, guys. Let's see the question number 1. Hey, if you have anything you want me to explain any way, or you want me to explain in any different way, you can comment it always. Subscribe this channel for further video updates also. Question number 1. Which most weakens the argument contained in the paradox? And what was the paradox? Line number 1 was the paradox. That is it admonishes, it was saying something against that tolerance of the intolerant leads to intolerance. Well, what is this about? What was that first line about? Well, definitely the first line was about that what the passage was advocating in the first few lines, I mean the entire passage, that democratic government, they tend to outlaw extremist speeches legally. That was something in the first paragraph. And then if extremist speech exists its own, sometimes especially American economy, they try to accommodate that, they try to tolerate that, but it leads to intolerance after all. So this is the passage. Now let's see. Now choose that option which is not going to support the passage, which may say opposite of the idea of the passage. Let's see the first option. Islandia's government has decided to outlaw extremist political group to protect its democracy. This is the good. This is something which supports the passage. Exactly. We want something that will weaken the passage. So the first one is actually a supporter. This will support the passage. That's why this gets eliminated. Second, Islandia has a non-democratic government. Well, this is out of the scope because passage was only giving information about democratic government. So this is a non-democratic government thing is out of the scope of the passage. Okay, this is not what the passage is talking about, or this is an information which we have nothing to do. Third one says Islandia's government became democratic. See, government became democratic, don't read it further, because a government became democratic or didn't become democratic after extremist policy. Using the word democracy and extremist political groups. Guys, the passage was regarding extremist political speech. This is talking about group. This is also alien. This is also out of the passage scope. This is also not what was being talked about or discussed in the passage. This is different. What is D? Islandia has a stable democratic government. Okay, even though it has never outlawed extreme political group. See, this is which is going against the idea of the passage. This is the opposite of the passage. It says that there is a democratic government, but it has never outlawed the extremist political group. But the RC was saying what? RC was saying democratic government were outlawing extremist political group. See, refer to the first paragraph back. So this is exactly which is against the passage's idea. So this is going to exactly weaken the idea of the passage. What about E? Islandia has tried and failed repeatedly to have a stable government. Well, what it has done to have a stable government, this is out of the scope of the passage. This was never ever discussed. We don't have any supporting evidence for this information in the passage. E gets ignored. Answer is D. Hopefully you guys are understanding. If you have any questions, definitely do feel free to ask. Next two questions, last two questions. Question number 2. All of the following actions have been put forth by one or another group in this country as being a value in our society. So actions put forth by some group in this country, value in our society. Okay, this is a statement given to us. Then it asks, which action would violate a principle of classical model? So for this, just which action would violate a principle of classical model? Well, remember what was there in the classical model. If we go back to the passage and just give a quick revision, here we have the classical model, where classical model was relating to citizen must vote, free speech, political party, society, self-government, then extremist view cannot be concealed, then self-interest of a governing society, it will be rational, equal, participating citizens will be there. All this were in the in the classical model. Now, which will violate the principle of classical model? So say something which goes against classical model or which says opposite to classical model. Let's check the options. Option A, banning an individual from making derogatory comments. See, derogatory comments is just like an extremist speech. So banning an extremist speech. Now the classical model, actually both the models, they were supporting extremist speech. There are different two ways of extremist speech. Classical model and the other one that I forgot the name as of now, Potter's model. But this is not, this is going against the statement. A is a very good contender to be an answer. See, classical model was not meant to ban extremist comments. It was to welcome extremist comment. Here it is saying banning the derogatory comment. Derogatory is extremist comment itself. So A is quite opposite, and we need something which would violate a principle of classical model, so which will go opposite. So A looks like the correct answer. What about B, C, D, E? Whether there is a different option which is also correct? If yes, then we will select the best option as per the passage and the question. B says banning an individual from yelling fire in a crowded movie theater. Well, this is an individual code of conduct and this is not related to politics. So the passage was talking about the extremist speech in politics, in social participation, not in a movie theater. This has nothing to do with something political. So we cannot go with B. C says banning an individual from claiming that government should be voted out of existence. So this is also trying to talk about something extremist, but this is like government should vote out of existence. Now see, there is A, there is C. We have both looks like a good contender, both violates classical model of free speech, because here this person want to say something, here the person want to say something. So we have to choose whether A is better or D, A or C, because between A and C this is like derogatory comments about ethnic group, and this is the government itself. Well, if we go back to the passage, let's go back to the passage, we see that the classical model was regarding opinion related to any issue on which citizen must vote. Passage says citizen must vote. In this like overthrowing the government is going to be little bit more out of the scope in terms, because our answer should be more close to the passage. Uprooting the government, saying something about vote the government out, this may go political, but this is more extreme type of politics that the passage has not touched. When we are not sure that this politics may become more extreme, that is definitely the wrong answer. So between A and C, C is wrong, because government should be voted out of existence. Someone is saying throw out the government, that's an extremist view. So banning an extremist view, I understand, but it says government should be voted out, and this makes derogatory comments about an ethnic group. This is not again totally politics, this is an acceptable range of topic as per the RC, but voting government out is little bit going beyond the passages range, because our answer should be in the range of the RC. How do I know it is A is better than C? Why not government topic? Why the derogatory comment topic? Because passage has not given you any example. So choose an option. If no example is there now, choose an option which is less extreme, because a less extreme option will be more close towards the passage. So this will make you go with A. So we have to think accordingly. So is A the right answer? Well, between D and E, let's first check these two options also. D says banning an individual from making false statement about, this is false statement. False statement is never called as extremist opinion or extremist speech. So this is out of the scope. E says banning individual for abusing his parents. Now this is nowhere related to that kind of politics that this passage was discussing. So after a lot of brainstorming, answer comes as A. Right answer is also A. So this is how A has come. Any doubt, you can discuss it in the comments. I will be happy to help you out. Third one, fortress model is built on a foundation of pessimism. Yep, individualism, relativism, self-doubt. Yes, this was there in the passage. Yes. Based on the information, each of the following statement is a view held by those who believe in the fortress model, except so find that option which is not classified as fortress model of speech. And what is there in fortress model of speech? No need to see the passage back, it is already there in the question. So this looks like an easy question. So let's see. So A says extremist political speech should be prohibited because it threatens democratic government. So fortress model is pessimism, individualism, self-doubt. So negativity is there. So yes, this is quite negative. So this is a fortress model. Yes. So if this is a fortress model, this is not the answer. B says what? Freedom of political speech is necessary in order to protect democratic government. To protect the democratic government, freedom of political speech is necessary. Well, this is no, because this is of course there in the passage. Passage is actually saying this, that political speech should be free. So when there is a freedom of speech, then any kind of speech can come. Extremist speech will also come under freedom of political speech. So B is saying that extremist speech also under the political speech is necessary. Well, this is actually saying that freedom of speech is necessary, and this fortress model is also saying freedom of speech is needed in government, in politics and all that. So B is a correct fortress model view. So we have to find something which is not a fortress model view. So B will not be the answer. Yeah. C says a ban on extremist political speech raises the probability that more important political speech will also be banned. So when extremist political speech is getting banned, so this is, see, it is like extremist political speech is getting banned. So and it raises the probability that more political speech will also be banned. Now banning the extremist speech, more political speech, if so, look at this part, more political speech will also be banned. It is like closing or restricting the freedom of speech. But fortress model is encouraging the freedom of speech by encouraging extremist political speech. It says ban political speech, ban the extremist speech. So C is not a fortress model. Guys, fortress model and classical model both support extremist speech in this passage. So C technically is not what the fortress model is saying. C can become the answer. Put C on board. What about D and E? D says government is unlikely to permit political speech that it finds objectionable unless law prevents it from curbing. So it is also saying until and unless law prevents it, government is not likely to permit political speech that finds objectionable. So so this is like political speech is objectionable speech until and unless the law prevent, no one can stop the objectionable political speech. This is what D is trying to say, which is actually going with the passage. Now how do I know, guys? There is a trick to understand these kind of things. Unlikely is there, and then wait, I wanted to show you one thing. Unlikely to permit that it finds objectionable unless, like, see guys, there are two words, both the words are negative. If a statement has two negative words, the actual meaning of the statement is in the positive sense. So point number D exactly mean to say that government cannot curb political speech. I mean that free objectionable political speech as per point number D. Try to understand, if there are two negative words, it actually means the positive, and if you read it back correctly, it actually is the positive way. So that whatever is written the positive side is actually what was said in the fortress model, that goes along with the fortress model. Any doubt, please let me know. This is a very high level RC. These kind of RCs need high level concentration. Guys, let me tell you one thing. If high level concentration, if you think that these kind of RCs intimidate you yet, then I suggest you to go to the yellow playlist, RC99 series in my channel itself. The yellow playlist is also covering RC99 from the starting. So do few RCs. When you get more confident, then you can come and do few RCs of this playlist. So not necessary that each and every RC you do, but whatever RC you do, that you should learn from it, and don't get scared. Just be very courageous. Don't think what will happen, guys. You have to practice from the difficult RC also, so that in the exam you feel all the RC is not so difficult. You feel some level of familiarity with the RCs and the question, even though it may be difficult for you at that time. So familiarity with the topic is very much important. That's why I would like you all to do some easy level RC, but also this playlist, the tough level RC. Okay, coming back to the topic, the last option. What is the last option? C. The government should ensure that extremist speech, as long as it is political, is protected. Extremist speech is protected. Of course, this is what the fortress model was saying. Even the classical model was saying similar to this. So this is there in the fortress model. So we will not let this as the answer. So what is the answer left? That is C, which is exactly the opposite of fortress model because of the word except. Hey, hopefully you got the passage right, and hopefully you understood this passage. How do we read a passage? And how do we read the passage, guys? Listen, skimming, scanning, skipping method is there. It helps, but in the real exam, any student and every student will read each and every line. So never skip. I will make a video on it very soon. Don't skip the lines. Skipping means you skip it after reading. I will show you how it is done. Even I try to incorporate it in the RCs when I read it in front of you. So very soon I will make a video on it too. Hopefully you like this session. The next video of the RC 99, where we will be doing the 68th RC. So that will be the second RC of the high level. Very soon the next video will come. Up to then, subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you never miss the next video. Okay, have a nice day. Thank you.